Like all Afghans in Pakistan right now, particularly refugees, asylum seekers, and essentially all Afghans are terrified at the moment, whether they're POR card holders, ACC card holders, or if they have no documentation. And they're all terrified because police are conducting raids at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning, picking children up from their neighborhoods, from schools, from madrasas as well. So all Afghan families are terrified at the minute because police can show up and pick anyone up at this point in time. The main challenge, however, besides being terrified, is what they're facing is the fact that once they go to a police station or the detention center at Sultanabad, there really is no information whether or not their person is inside. So it could be their child, it could be a husband, a wife, a brother. There's no real way of knowing. So the police station might just say that the person is at Sultanabad, whereas the person might be at a different police station or at the same police station. And once the family reaches Sultanabad, there's no way of knowing if they're inside. For an Afghan family, there really is no other choice instead of contacting someone higher up in government. That should not be the case. There should be a list available with police officials outside or whoever could be outside, whether it be from the DC's office, whether it be someone else, who could provide a list and let people know who is inside the detention center at Sultanabad or inside a police station. Because right now, there is no way for a family to know if they show up to Sultanabad. And unless there are any government connections, this entire process is falling apart. Well, first of all, Pakistan should not be conducting this deportation drive. Pakistan has received millions of dollars in aid in the name of Afghan refugees. By the amount of aid Pakistan has received, every single Afghan settlement in the country should resemble a world-class settlement. But that's not the case, and instead the money is of course lost to corruption. Pakistan should definitely not be deporting a single Afghan refugee, especially with the Afghan Taliban still in power. Women aren't being given education. The last winter of Afghanistan was terrible with starvation throughout the entire country, and we're sending Afghans back at the time when they are most vulnerable to the elements of the climate. As Pakistan is committing a massive blunder, a massive mistake by deporting any single Afghan right now, because they're also mainly deporting children. Government figures keep pointing out again and again that there are more children. When we stand outside the detention center at Sultanabad as well, we see far more children than any adults who are going over. And so we're essentially destroying an entire generation which won't be educated, which will not have good quality of life, and will come to resent Pakistan once they grow up and are back in Afghanistan. The state is essentially engaging in trafficking and really can open the door to trafficking, since a lot of these kids, since a lot of them are now unaccompanied as well and they're separated from their families, will fall into labor abuse, will fall into sexual abuse, will fall into slavery as well. Presently, Pakistan is exacerbating that process as well. Pakistan provides birthright status, and for some reason that's not being given to Afghans. There are tons of Afghans, lakhs of Afghans who were born in this country but were not given Pakistani citizenship. Our Citizenship Act lets people who were born in the country be Pakistani citizens, but that is being denied to Afghans. For what reason? Xenophobia is pretty much the only one that comes to mind. For any single Afghan that Pakistan is deporting, they need to be sure that whatever assets they had in the country, so it could be a business, it could be whatever they were doing in the country, that equivalent amount should be confirmed for Afghan refugees or whoever is being deported or whoever is, as the government claims, is voluntarily leaving the country as well, which I can tell you is not very many people to begin with. We have tons of families who come to us who are saying that they're selling off their very basic amounts because they have to sell them off quickly. There is so much police harassment going on that Afghan families are now compelled to leave the country because they don't want to face any more police harassment or any other law enforcement harassment as well. What the government could do right now is really train police officers to not conduct raid, do it in a much more appropriate manner in which they can enter places with elders from the community present, with other government officials present, with people from the UNHCR present as well, because right now the way it's operating, but no one knows inside the detention center, there needs to be much greater transparency. What is the government trying to hide at this point? So that's kind of like the main things that's what the government really needs to address as well. Yeah, I think one thing that I want people to know is that what we see at Sultanabad or at Surapur is the fact that for a lot of these Afghan families, they're not even shocked that this is happening to them at this point because they have faced so much harassment from police and law enforcement. This is all too familiar at this point. This is the situation that we've created for Afghan refugees. This is the situation that we met out to them every few years. In the last major deportation drives that have happened in Pakistan as well, these are the cycles that they keep going through. So even when Pakistan claims that it's a very gracious country, it invites visitors and it invites guests, we're not really upholding that whatsoever. And these Afghan refugees who are living in terrible conditions. I mean, in the Afghan camp just outside of Karachi, there is no proper education system. There are barely any schools. There's barely any health services provided there either. I mean, they're become entire trash dumps. And again, Pakistan has received millions of dollars in aid for refugees, which would imply that all of these places would be world-class settlements. But that's not the case. And I think people really need to know that it's not the Afghan refugees that are the problem. It really is our systems of governance and corruption systemated out at every single level. But we're putting the blame on migrants and refugees when they've fled violence on the largest of scales. And when they came here for refuge, we've dealt with them in the worst possible way. The way Sindh police is dealing with the refugees right now is the raids are happening at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. And so police are conducting raids, strangers are conducting raids as well. But besides that, what's really happening is that police are picking up unaccompanied children. And later what happens is that you have families who are looking for their child. Might not be a child, it might be a husband or a wife or a brother. And police then tell the family who's waiting outside that, look, your family member is inside, your child is inside, why don't you join them as well? Because they'll be abused if they're left alone. And the state has just adopted this policy now. So in this way, they capture one person and they're taking in an entire family. By law, if the majority of the family has POR cards or ACC cards, and if the one individual doesn't, then that individual should be let go. But that's not happening in these cases. I mean, we have a case at Sultanabad right now in which there are 2 POR card holders. The families are outside with their POR cards. And these 2 individuals are on their way to the Jammu-Kashmir border as well to be deported to Afghanistan, even though they are POR card holders. So while the government claims that they're not arresting people or they're letting people go who have POR cards or AC cards, that is far from the truth. I think that's it. I mean, there are more examples and stuff, but I think that thing I do want to highlight, that they are really separating families in this entire game and then really pressurizing them as well. One more thing that I could add is the fact that, like, at this point, police with their raids are keeping people inside police vans, taking them around neighborhoods and demanding bribes as well. The figures that we're hearing from families is the bribe could be anywhere from between 10,000 rupees to up to 50,000 rupees as well. And if the family can't pay, then they're sent straight to Sultanabad. Police have also torn up POR cards and ACC cards as well. You could have your card renewed from SHARP, which is the body kind of working with UNHCR to deal with Afghan refugees, and particularly in Karachi or in Islamabad. But that takes time, and in that time frame, you could have someone be deported as well. So if people can't pay bribes, then the entire system is left up to that at this point. So it could be a case where one person has lost their POR card or their ACC card and is now inside a police prison and is then taken to Sultanabad Detention Center. The rest of the family still has, or rather the majority of the family still has POR ACC cards. They still deport the person because they're not taking any case in which someone does not have an ACC card or does not have a POR card, even if the rest of the family does have those cards. They're supposed to be let outside, but they're separating families even though they fully well know that the rest of the family does have one. And so what the police then tells the family outside is that, listen, this guy doesn't have a card and hence is unregistered, so why doesn't the rest of the family go with them as well?